Hi, this is Travis of Black Ring Tactical, and today I'm going to teach you how to clean a Glock 19. So I have in front of me a Glock 19 Generation 5. It's fairly new. It's got about 500 rounds through it, and it's time to be cleaned. So follow along. All right, so this is what I use. First, I start off with a barber brush to get any of like the loose, big, fuzzy stuff off of there from carrying it or, at the range or whatever else. Then a toothbrush, some Q-tips, an old rag, a bore snake, and I follow it up with grease and oil. So the grease that I use is Black Rifle Balm. I've been highly impressed with this stuff. Just learned about it a couple of months ago and seems to work really, really well. No, I'm not paid by them. All right, the other stuff that I like to use for oil is Battleborn HP Pro made by Breakthrough Technologies. It's pretty good. Never let me down. All right, so put all this stuff back over here and get into how I clean my Glocks. So first, you want to make sure that it's empty. No magazine, no round in the chamber. It's good to go. Cycle it a few times. Press the trigger. All right, grab it in an overhand grip like this. Pull back about 1/4 of an inch. You'll see two little takedown pins, one on either side. Go ahead and grab that and pull it down. The whole thing down. It's a bar on the inside, so pull both of them down equally. Set the frame aside. So you have your slide. Go ahead and pop the recoil spring out. It does not need lubrication. It does not need to be cleaned. Just leave it alone. To get the barrel out, go ahead and lift up and press forward a little bit on the barrel, and it comes right out. That's the extent of the slide that you need to disassemble. If you want to go any further, there's YouTube videos out there for that, or I would highly recommend attending the Glock Armorer's course. So from there, take your barrel, drop your bore snake down the barrel from the breech to the muzzle, that little brass weight on the end, pull it up, pull it through. I repeat this process about 3 or 4 times. And then I'm good to go. All right, so we are done with the bore snake. All right, so the next thing that I do is I take a little bit of Hoppies on an old rag. So you can use whatever solvent that you want, your favorite flavor. I don't care, doesn't matter, just as long as you use a solvent. I've used Hoppies for many years, and it works just fine. There's probably better stuff on the market now, but I don't care. All right, so wipe down the outside of your barrel. Scrub everything up real nice and clean. So pay attention to where the breech is, right here. There's going to be a lot of carbon buildup around here. Just kind of clean that off. It's not absolutely necessary, but after a while it would get really nasty. So just go ahead and clean that up really well. Right down in here where it locks on the locking lug, run a little bit through there, and then dry it off. Get all that old carbon and junk off of there. Come into the breech. Nice and squeaky clean. Well, it looks pretty good, but it's still a new pistol, so kind of expected that it would look really nice. All right, so put the barrel aside. Now for the slide, you want to take your Hoppy soap rag come in and kind of wipe everything down really, really good. Put a little bit more over here. It's nice and clean on this side of the rag. Okay. Wipe the entire thing down. Doesn't need to be super clean. You can run these guns pretty dirty and they'll still function as long as they have lubrication. So lubrication is extremely important when it comes to Glocks and most firearms. I ran a saw when I was in the Army for, I don't even know how long, a long time. And I just made sure that it was clean, but I also made sure that there was lots of lubricant on it at all times. And I never really had a problem, even though they're very famous for having problems. So just keep a lot of lube on your gun and you'll be all right. Okay, so come in here, kind of dry stuff off. Get that solvent out of there. That's pretty good. All right. All right, so we'll set the front or the slide aside here. We're going to grab our rag and find us a good spot of still wet hoppies. Come along in here, clean off the 4 contact points that the slide rides in, and kind of just wipe everything down a little bit. With the frame, you don't have to go super crazy. Yeah, there's crap that will build up down in here. There's crap that'll build up in all kinds of places, but really, besides the trigger mechanism, you just have the slide that rides along the top right here. It's not that big of a deal to deep clean your slide or your frame. Just leave it alone. I deep clean my gun probably once every 6 months, and I shoot quite a bit, so you know, just do a little bit on the frame and you'll be okay. So once we have all that stuff wiped down, just kind of find anything big in here, any little bits of brass, wipe that out, and you're pretty much good to go. All right, so we've cleaned our gun, all the components, except for the recoil spring. Don't touch that. Just leave it as is. Doesn't need lube, doesn't need cleaning. What we're gonna do is lubricate the gun now. So if you're going to store a gun, any gun, for a very long extended period of time, you're gonna wanna put a little bit of oil, and I emphasize a little bit. All you need is a very, very, very light coating on the inside of the barrel. If you wanna store the gun for a very long time, I'm not talking, 6 months, I'm talking a couple of years. Or if you live in like a very humid climate, you might want to, do this if you're going to store it for a year. So you can take a little bit of oil on a patch and run it down through and back. That's all you need, a very little bit of oil. Otherwise, if you're going to shoot your guns like I do all the time, then go ahead and follow this next step. So we're going to put the hoppies away. I'm going to grab some black rifle balm. Little applicator right here. Man, I just love this stuff. It just works so well. We're going to put a little bit here on that part of the slide. And you can use your finger or a Q-tip or whatever. I got kind of fat fingers, so I can't really get down in there where it needs to be. But you can use a Q-tip and kind of spread your grease or oil around a little bit. Nice, thin little coat down there. You'll see the wear marks. Just make sure that those are covered. And take your barrel. You can put a little tiny bit. You'll see some wear marks actually right here along the top of the barrel. You can put just like a little coat right here. And even wipe the excess off with a Q-tip. It doesn't need much. Okay. All right. The armor's manual and everything else calls for a drop of oil on the barrel. I like to put 2 little dabs of grease. Take my finger, spread it around. This. Make sure that it's got a nice, good, even kind of thin coating on it. You can't really, well, I mean, you can over lubricate guns, but you would have to basically dunk it in oil. But you cannot run these things dry. If you run a whole bunch of lubrication on them when it's sitting in the holster like this for, days, weeks, months, years, whatever, it will start to run down. The Black Rifle Balm does not do that, which I think is awesome. But you don't need a heavy coat of oil or grease or anything on these guns. Just a light coating, as long as it's shiny compared to the rest of the metal, you'll be just fine. All right, so I like to take a little dab right where the recoil spring hits. Leave that. Okay, we'll set the barrel aside. So for the slide, take a little bit of my grease here, put it in where the slide rides against the frame. Just a little bit of that. Got a whole bunch in one spot, so I'll just do a little bit down here. That should be just enough. Like I said, you don't need a lot. So I actually got a little bit too much over here. Go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so we have our lubricant down here. We have it along the rails of the slide. That's pretty much all you need to do. I kind of go against the rules just a little bit, and I put just a tiny dab right here. And that's about it. So we'll set that aside. When it comes to your frame, you need a little bit along these frame rails. And Glock calls for a drop of oil in between the disconnector and the trigger bar. I do put a drop of oil in there instead of grease, unless I take the gun apart and physically grease it. Put 1 little drop of oil right down there. Put the oil and the grease away. And that is pretty much the extent of what you need to do to clean your Glock. So to put it back together, take your slide, put your barrel in, pull it back, it seats. Put your recoil spring in. The big thick plastic end, little thin metal end, plastic one goes here, and you just push it into place. It will go on the second notch down in there, not the first one, but the second one. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully that helps somebody. All right, and then to put it back together, you will see these lugs on the front right here correspond with the cutouts in the frame, or I'm sorry, in the slide right here. So you take the slide, find those little cutouts, put them in there, bring the whole thing back. It should very easily go into the back ones. Might have to wiggle it a little bit. Like I said, it's a brand new gun. Pull it all the way back, let it go, do it again, and to functions check, press the trigger. You should hear a click. Cycle the gun with the trigger held to the rear, let it go, and you hear a little click. So now you have performed a functions check and cleaned your Glock. This is literally all I do to clean my guns, and I primarily shoot Glocks. It has never failed me. There's going to be other methods out there. Great. If you want to go deeper into detail, there's other videos for that. You can, take this thing down to the absolute nut and bolts. Every time that you clean it, it doesn't matter. All I'm doing is showing you how I clean and lubricate my guns, and they work flawlessly. I've never had a problem. However, you are going to see videos online of people being like, oh, you can throw these things in the salt water with, you know, no lube after hosing them out with brake clean or something, and they're going to pick up and shoot. And that's true. They will shoot for a few rounds. That's about all you're going to get. I've seen Glocks go down on the range because of improper lubrication. I've seen it many times, and it's kind of embarrassing for the guy standing up there with a dry gun to come back to the instructor and say, hey, do you have any lube? You don't have to clean these things all the time. I'll tell you that. You can get them dirty enough to where, you know, they will stop working without lubrication. I have yet to see a Glock so dirty that it wouldn't work as long as it had lube on it. Keep them lubed and keep yourself safe. Thanks for watching. Bye.